Hi everybody and welcome back to another video. So if you're new here, my name is Sailor and this is not normally the stuff I do. I mean, is there anything normal that I really do? I kind of do a bit of everything, but today we will be comparing the Japanese government with the Australian government. I'm an Australian, so that's why I chose Australia, and Japan, why not? So let's just give a bit of context here. So also my scripts here, I'm going to be looking to that a lot because I am not going to remember anything. So I sent emails to the Prime Minister of both Australia and Japan, or at least like their offices sort of thing. So I was hoping to be able to do a comparison of Shinzo Abe's day with Scott Morrison's day. However, only Scott Morrison's office replied, so can't do a comparison when you don't have two things to compare. So, as I said before, I am just going to compare the Australian government with the Japanese government with Scott Morrison's letter at the end, because I'm sure that's what all of you have waited for. So, more specifically comparing their governments, I'll compare how their respective parliaments differ, as well as their judiciary system and a few other little things in there. And of course, as mentioned, we cannot forget the beautiful letter from our PM, Scott Morrison, even though he probably didn't write it. And to my teacher, pretty sure this video counts as a form of rationale, as the rationale, well, it's a video essay pretty much. I'm speaking my essay, sort of, I don't know, but let's get into it. And just before we get into it, let me tell you a fun fact about the Japanese government. So, in English, the Japanese government is called the Diet, or in Japanese, Kokai, which literally means country meeting. Or at least that's what the nice person on Quora told me. I have complete faith in you to not lie to me. If nice person on Quora lied to me, I will be sad, because I didn't put it through Google Translate, because I never trust this in Google Translate. So, let's get started properly this time. So, both governments have a House of Representatives, which is something they share, but where we differ is when we get to the upper house. Australia has the Senate, which is the Red House in Australia, with House of Representatives being the Green House, while Japan has what is known as the House of Councillors. I don't know what colour it is, but I'll probably chuck an image up somewhere here so you can see what it looks like. So there are a total of 480 members in Japan's House of Representatives, and in Australia we only have 150 members sitting in our House of Representatives. And in Japan, for the House of Councillors, there is 242 members, and the Australian Senate has 76. And both countries, if my research is right, are both constitutional monarchies. Now, the reason for Japan having more members of Parliament than Australia is pretty much because Japan has 5 times the population of Australia. Japan also has a total of 47 prefectures to get its representatives from, while Australia only has a total of 8 states and territories to get its representatives from, with territories, if I remember correctly, yes it is, the territories do get less members than the states, so which means ACT and Northern Territory get, I don't know how many less members, but we do get less members than, say, New South Wales or Victoria. Now, when it comes to considering, like, which amount of members is better, you've got to take into account that, like, you know, there's more people in Japan. So, not only does it take into consideration the fact that Japan is 5 times the population of Australia on, like, comparing them, but it also comes into personal opinion. So, some people might think having more voices in Parliament will allow more opinions to get heard, whereas some people think that having fewer people is a lot less chaotic. Although, I am not saying that Australian Parliament is not chaotic as Japan's. They're probably both equally chaotic, but I don't watch Parliament sittings, so I don't know. And then, next. That was a weird way of transitioning it, but whatever. So both countries have what is called the separation of powers. Both of them have the same sort of style, having the judiciary, legislative and the executive. So one of the things under the executive is the head of state, which both of them has. And as Japan isn't part of the Commonwealth like Australia is, Queen Elizabeth, or whoever isn't the current reigning British monarch, if somebody is to view this and Queen Elizabeth isn't on the throne anymore, isn't part of Japan's system. Instead, they have Emperor Akihito as their head of state. This means that unlike Australia, Japan doesn't need to go through a second person to reach the head of state. In Australia, before things are given to the Queen, or the current reigning monarch, although not everything's given to the Queen, it must go through the Governor-General before it ascends to the Queen. But not always. The Queen doesn't receive everything, because that's a lot of countries. Now, in my opinion, I can see benefits from both ways, much like I was saying before for the population and how many people are in the parliaments and whatnot. So, as like Emperor Akihito is the head of state for only one country, it wouldn't make much sense for there to be like some sort of middleman like in between the parliament and Emperor Akihito, because there's not much of a reason to. Whereas the Queen being the head of the Commonwealth, if there wasn't somebody in between her and the country's respective government, she would be like pretty much constantly receiving items from the 53 countries who are part of the Commonwealth. And I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be fun at all, just to not spend your day with your corgis and your family and your British Londoner pals. But by allowing somebody like the Governor-General to pass like laws and what for her, or pass things to her, or whatever, it allows her life to be a lot easier and at her old age. I'm sure that is a big benefit. So overall, the head of state for each country's work about as like equally well. So there's no real benefit or pros and cons. I mean, there's only pros and cons, but they're not like big, ground-breaking, deal-breaking sort of things, if you know what I mean. But one thing they do have in common, much like the other one, is having a Prime Minister and a Deputy Prime Minister. At the time of recording, these are Scott Morrison, Prime Minister, who I've already mentioned, and Michael McCormack for Australia. This is as of 2nd of May 2019, because the Australian Prime Minister, I swear, changes every few months. And in Japan, they are Shinzo Abe and Taro Aso, who I don't know the type up anymore, but they have been there for a while, because Japan doesn't like to grind through their prime ministers as of late. And then with their constitution, Japan's constitution only came in 10 years before Australia's in 1980, with an update in 1946, and Australia's came in during 1901, with the last update in 1977. And take these updates to... there's more mosquitoes. And take these updates to the country's constitution as you will, because I didn't read either of the constitutions, so I don't know what's better, what's worse, and whatnot. So, next we will move on to the judiciary. Woo! So, the judiciary, as defined by the Cambridge Dictionary, is the part of a country's government responsible for its legal system. And in both systems, the judiciary is part of what's known as the separation of powers. I feel like I'm pointing too much, but I'll choose to ignore that fact. So, to start off, let's just go over a bit of Australia's judiciary. So, in Australia there are 4 main types of courts that make up the judiciary. I don't like that word. Starting off, we have the Federal Circuit Court, which I had not heard of before this video. Ooh. So this mainly deals with less complex cases such as child support, bankruptcy and human rights. It used to be called the Federal Magistrate Court. And then next up we have the Family Court. So this court, much like the name suggests, would you believe, deals with family matters. It sits in every state and territory except for Western Australia. In Western Australia, all family matters go to the state court, but I didn't look into that because I don't live in Western Australia. So if you wanted to learn about the state court, I'm sorry. And then moving on to the next court we have in the Australian system is the federal court. They receive cases on a variety of different topics, including things like corporations, taxation, and industrial practices. Besides those, the federal court also hears appeal decisions from the Federal Circuit Court, excluding family cases, which I'm pretty sure would just go to the family court because if we have a family court, why not use it? And finally, we get to the big boy, the top dog, the High Court. The final court in all of Australia. So the High Court, they deal with civil and criminal matters from any of the previously mentioned courts, and not only that, but they also hear matters of dispute regarding the Constitution. So big boy cases. So including these 4 different courts, each state and territory also has its own laws and court system, meaning them all of our states and 2 territories have their own intricacies, but I won't be covering them here today, and I probably will never cover them. You're welcome. Sorry if you came to this channel thinking it was educational. It's not. At least I think it isn't. So now, moving on over north, let's do Japan's judiciary. In comparison, Japan has just 1 more court type than Australia, so they have 5 courts. Wow, maths. So the first court we have here are the summary courts. This court is for claims that don't exceed 1.4 million, which I will assume is in yen, but like the website didn't specify any country, but it also was a .jp site, so I'm just going to kind of hope they mean 1.4 million yen, which if my math is correct, that is 14... I'll just put it up on the screen. I can't do it in head maths. I'm just trying to read this script, but it'll be somewhere here. I don't know if my hands are too high, but it'll be somewhere here. As well as, so where is it? The summary court also does minor criminal cases that happen within Japan. And then we have the family court, again, popular kind, which is like exactly the same as Australia's. Any family related sort of things, straight to the family court. And then the third type in the system is the district courts, which deal with like a majority of the cases. Most cases in this court will only have 1 judge, and where necessary there will be 3 judges. For example, majority of criminal cases will only have 1 judge, but for longer cases there may be 3 judges. The 4th court in Japan's system is the High Courts. I presume there's multiple because there was an S on the website. And then, so the most common cases heard in the High Courts are the Koso appeals. These are appeals against judgments that have been made in one of the lower courts. So presumably also the family court, but the website didn't tell me what happens if a family court case escalates, so. And then Japan's big boy court, the highest level of court in Japan, is the Supreme Court. And then, so much like Australia's High Court, the Supreme Court is the highest and final court. The Supreme Court is where Chief Justice and the 14 justices will be found. And fun fact, the Chief Justice is appointed by the Emperor. So is the Prime Minister, by the way. And the rest of the justices are appointed by the Cabinet, which I didn't go over, but I'm sure you can Google the Cabinet if you're interested. Much like I've said before, in my opinion, I think both judiciary systems work just as well in their respective countries. As I have said before, Japan has a way bigger population than Australia, so it's kind of natural that they'll have more than us. Because there's more people, it makes sense. And now, for the most important, definitely integral part of the video, the letter from Scott Morrison. So, I asked, as I said in the very start of the video, I asked him, hey, Scott Morrison, what is your daily life like on a, like, day of Parliament sitting? Like, you know, what do you do? Sort of thing. And, this is what I got back. Dear Sailor, thank you for taking your time to write for me. I am proud and humbled to be Australia's 30th Prime Minister. It is an exciting and challenging job that requires hard work and dedication. Every day I had the privilege to meet Australians from all walks of life and help make a difference to their lives. As Prime Minister, I am the head of national government. I select the ministers. Together we make decisions that help make Australia the best it can possibly be. While I spend a lot of time in Canberra because that is where Parliament is located, I try to get out and about, listening to as many Australians as I can. I also represent the Australian government at meetings with the Australian state premiers and territory chief ministers. I hope you could hear me over that bird, that is not what Scott Morrison said. To discuss significant national issues. Internationally, I represent Australia at important meetings with leaders of other countries to discuss issues such as trade, global economy and terrorism. As well as being Prime Minister, I am also the member for Cook, an electorate in South Sydney. In this role, I represent the interests and concerns of people in my community. Again, thank you for your correspondence. I send you my best wishes, Scott Morrison. He didn't, like, answer my question about what he does in a daily life, but I got a letter from him. But I'm still waiting for the one for the Japanese government, and it's been like 3 weeks, although this took like 2 weeks, so whatever. So that is all for today, and I hope you learnt something new somewhere along the lines. And if there's anything you think I missed, be sure to chuck it in the comments, as I probably will not be doing another video. And if you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like or join the cruise by hitting subscribe, and I'll see all of you later in hopefully my enlightened video if I get around to editing that. Or oh yeah, I'm also doing a get to know me because I am stealing it off one of my friends, who I'll chuck a link in the description. But I'll see you all later. Make sure to hit subscribe and join the queue. I can say bye.